Taisha, for that introduction. I'm going to screen. Let's see. Okay. You should be able to see my slides now. Okay. So my name is Andrea Villanes. I am, as Taisha mentioned, I am a teaching assistant professor at the Institute for Advanced Analytics. I have been working at the Institute since 2013. And as a fun fact, as Taisha mentioned, I graduated from the program in 2009. So I have been involved with the Institute for a long time, now more than 10 years. I have seen the curriculum change all over the years. With all the challenges that data science has brought to us. I am going to talk a little bit about that as well during the presentation. But basically, like we have seen a completely change in the tools, the skills that companies are asking for nowadays. And in this presentation, I am going to be talking about how you can prepare for a successful career in data science, either if you're applying to a job directly or if you are maybe considering studying a master's degree. So what can you do to prepare for your next step? And you can do all of these recommendations really from any world in the world. If you are here in the US, that's great. If you are in another country, that would work for you as well. Okay, so let's get started. So I want to start the presentation with this image, and this is an image that I found randomly on Twitter at the end of 2020. I was very happy when I saw this slide. I think I sent it to everyone that I knew that was in this area because it gives you a good idea of all the tools available in different verticals and what is the landscape of data science tools as of 2020. I know that this slide is hard to see all the logos, but I am going to give you like the PDF of that image right there, and you will have access to these slides at the end as well. Okay, so as I mentioned, like you can see, for example, that if you want tools that are involved in storage, you will have several of them. It's not just one of them. If you want tools related to Hadoop, data lakes, BI platforms, visualization, you can see that there are going to be multiple tools associated with each of these verticals. Some of the tools, like for example, AWS, will have their own like tools inside each of these vertical, depending on what you are doing. And I want to mention straight from the beginning that nobody would expect you all, like any person, to know all of these tools. Like that would be impossible. I think I can proudly say that I know maybe 5%, 10% of all these tools, and I teach at the Institute. So we don't expect anyone to come to the program, to finish the program, and to go to work at the company knowing all of these tools. I think like this will give you a good idea, like for example, what are the like most asked tools, what are the ones that are being used across different verticals, and if you're going to a very specialized area, which are the tools that you should be familiar with, okay? So to understand what companies were asking for after seeing all of these, and like we know that this is going on, like this is not something new. What I did was I did a small exercise. I went to Indeed.com, and Indeed.com for the audience that is not in the US, Indeed.com is a website where companies can post different jobs that they have, and people can apply, choose to apply to those jobs. I think every country would have some version of Indeed.com. I wanted to see what companies were asking for in this website. So I searched for data science jobs in San Francisco, like around the summer. So like the summer of 2020. So I got 2,583 job postings. And of course, I was not going to read all of them. I had to do some analysis. And in order to collect those job postings, what I did was to do some web scraping using Python, beautiful soup. And then I collected those and I created a data set that I could play with, okay? So just to give you an idea of the type of data that I was dealing with, these are snippets of those jobs postings that I found. So for example, one company was asking for prior experience in statistical programming with tools such as R, SAS, SPSS. Another company was asking for expertise with SQL and Hive. Another one was asking for experience with Pandas, NumPy, SciPy, and scikit-learn. Those are very popular tools right now. We use them quite a bit. Fluency with R or Python, experience with relational databases and SQL, and experience with big data tools such as Spark, TensorFlow, Keras, Hive, Peak, Hadoop, or MapReduce. Okay, so this was, as I said, like this is something that we have been seeing in the data science landscape, but it was good to see it like in real time and being asked by job postings that were happening in 2020. So what I did was to plot the answers that companies were mentioning the most. Okay, so you can see that the tools that were asked the most were Python, SQL, and Java, followed by other tools such as Java, Hadoop, Tableau, Hive, and SAS. Okay, so these are just a few of those, like the most popular tools that I was able to see in this analysis. But what about in the non-technical side? What about in the soft skills area? So these were some snippets of those job postings. You can see here that one company was asking for the data scientists to collaborate with other data scientists and software developer colleagues to research, debate, experiment, devise highly effective solutions. They were also asking for the candidate to be able to communicate insights to company management. They were also asking for a team player attitude. That is something very, very common that we see in data science. And we also saw for some, one job posting that was asking the person to lead the company in best practices for data and analytics. Okay, so what I did with all these responses, 2,583 job postings, was to plot those answers into a word cloud. So in a word cloud, the size of the word indicates the frequency of the word. So the bigger the word, the higher frequency it's going to have in the data set that you are analyzing. The biggest or the most frequent word in this analysis was collaboration. Companies wanted to see people to collaborate in teams. They were also interested in people with multidisciplinary background and also consultant skills, and other words such as lead, support, and design. Okay. So once we saw this, so we have seen the technical skills and the soft skills that companies were asking for. So the question now is like, how can we prepare for these jobs, and how can we prepare for a career in this area, given the analysis that we have seen? I like to point to this image because it has the 4 areas that you are going to see in those job postings, in the curriculum of the data science degrees that are out there. And you will have these 4 areas. So we have the math and statistics area, programming and database, domain knowledge and soft skills, and communication and visualization. So each of these areas will have specific skills that companies are asking for. For example, in math and statistics, we have machine learning, programming and databases. We have different tools that we have already seen a little bit in the first slides. And you will also be required to do presentations and perform visualization like projects, okay? So this should be all easy, right? Because we all, like including me, and you all like in the audience, have a bachelor in data science, correct? And the answer is no. Like, I don't have a bachelor in data science. I have a bachelor in computer science. You might all have different types of backgrounds. You might be studying undergrads in different areas. Some of the most popular that we see in the programs are maybe you're studying a bachelor in statistics, maybe you already studied a bachelor in computer science, a bachelor in economy. You might have a completely different background, which is completely fine with us. Like, for example, you might be studying music or theater. Some of our best students have been those students that have studied something completely different, but of course, they had a foundation in statistics. They took some programming courses. They knew how to like be able to analyze data with one tool, and they were willing to learn, and they were passionate in data science, okay? So what I am going to do next is that I'm going to focus on these three because those are the most common ones. But if you have a different type of bachelor degree, you might be able to identify a little bit like I am going to do it with the other bachelor degrees, okay? So if you studied, for example, a bachelor degree in statistics, then you are completely fine. You ace this area of math and statistics. You know the foundation of statistics. You might not have seen a lot of machine learning in your courses, but once you start exploring, you're able to understand. I'm not saying that you haven't seen any programming. That's not the case because you probably saw some courses with R, SAS, Python, SPSS, MATLAB. You have done programming, but if you see a job posting that is asking you to do programming databases, that's not really your area. Your area has been in math and statistics. You have done teamwork. You have presented some projects in class for your internships, but your area of expertise would be math and statistics. What about computer science? For this one, we have the programming and databases being our area of expertise. You took classes with Java, data structure classes, this is your area that you feel comfortable with. You might not have seen, for example, like AWS, Hadoop, MapReduce in undergrad, but if you start exploring, if you watch videos about it, you are able to understand it completely, okay? Again, I am not saying that you haven't taken any math or statistics. I took four calculus. You probably took a similar amount. I took 2 statistics classes. You probably did the same. Like you have done visualization, dashboards, probably but your area of expertise would be these programming and databases. What about for bachelor in economics? This is a little bit more tricky because it's not just one area that you were enforced, but maybe a combination of, and that would be the case of other degrees as well. So for economics, you will have like expertise in math and statistics. You have a good set of domain knowledge and soft skills, and also communication and visualization, okay? So who has all then these 4 areas at the same degree? I like to call this the unicorn profile because companies are really asking for all of this. You have seen in the job postings, they want the technical side, they want the soft skill side, but like maybe an undergrad degree will not enforce each of these 4 areas in the same degree, okay? So how can we learn the skills that we are missing if we are coming from any of these backgrounds, or if we have been working in any of these areas, okay? So here, what I am going to do is I am going to walk you through my recommendations, and I am going to give you resources in each of these areas in case you identified that any of these areas is something that you want to get more comfortable with. Okay, so let's start with math and statistics. Here, my recommendation, it is to start with the foundations of statistics. My recommendation would be, don't try to enroll in the courses that are talking about deep learning, TensorFlow, big data, if you need to review the foundations of statistics, such as hypothesis testing, ANOVA, simple linear regression, multiple linear regression, logistic regression. My recommendation here is that you stay with the foundation first, and then you go and start exploring machine learning, for example. Formal education is, like, if it's possible, it would be my recommendation. Like if you need to go back to university and take like 1 or 2 classes of statistics or community college, that would be my recommendation. I work at higher education, so I am a believer of higher education, And that would give you also a transcript that says this person took this course, you take exams that allow you to really understand what is going on. So formal education has been my recommendation. I know that circumstances might be different for every student. So you also have access to online courses, MOOCs, and there are so many available. You see a few of them, like 4 of them right here. And also here you see 2 courses, Foundations of Data Analysis. That one is from edX, and then Inferential Statistics from Coursera. Those are 2 alternatives, but there are so many that you could take in order for you to review or like become very, very familiar with the statistics foundations. Okay. Next, we have programming and databases. The tools that we see at the Institute being the most popular ones, and we saw it a little bit in the analysis that I did with the job postings, would be Python, SQL, R, SAS, and any cloud platform like AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, for example. Okay. My recommendation here would be don't try to do them all at the same time. That is not an expectation that anyone, I think, would have to know them all at the same level, but really to focus on 1 or 2 at the same time. There are multiple resources online where you can learn these tools. One of them is DataCamp. DataCamp is something that we like to give as an extra tool to our students at the Masters, where they can take some courses to reinforce some of the knowledge that we have already given them during class. So one course here, learn R, Python in data science and data science online, okay? My recommendation also would be to think about what is your end goal. Like for example, you might be interested in working in banking. So if you're interested in working in banking, you would try to explore what banking is asking for in terms of tools. They might be asking for SAS compared to Python or R. So like if you can identify those tools early on, then you can prepare for those tools. So when you're applying for that job, then you are better prepared and you have that resume that is going to be more interesting to them. My recommendation here for programming, and you're also going to see it coming up, is going to be to practice. You can spend maybe 40 hours a week watching videos or following classes online, but it's not going to be until you actually download a data set and then start doing the programming yourself that you are not going to learn that programming language the best. I often tell students that Google, Stack Overflow are your best friends. So if you have a project that you're working with, you're going to ask questions. I ask questions all the time. I go to Stack Overflow. I have it bookmarked in my browser because it's the tool that I use the most. We don't expect any of our students to know all these tools, all the syntax. We know that they will always be having to consult documentation or asking questions about them. So my recommendation here is to identify some data sets. Kaggle, for example, is one resource that is very popular. You can go download data sets or one data set and then ask questions like say, okay, I have 12 variables. What type of questions can I answer with these variables? And then you make a list of questions, maybe meet with a friend that is also interested in analyzing that data set, like see what questions he or she is asking, collaborate, and then solve those questions using Python, for example. And then when you start learning SQL, then solve the same questions, but with SQL. That's something that I like to like an exercise that I like our students to do. I give them the questions here are, you need to solve them with SQL, and then you need to solve them with pandas, for example, okay? So my recommendation here is practice that will show the prospective employer that you are interviewing with, or that master's degree that you're interviewing with, that you are very interested in learning, that you are applying those concepts, and that you're proactive. That is something that you're going to see even in the next area, okay? So in the soft skills, my recommendation is ask for feedback. That's how you can improve. Once you use the feedback, is how you're going to really change behavior or anything that you need to improve. Here is a quote from Bill Gates that says, "We all need people who will give us feedback, and that's how we improve." Okay, this is also something very serious. This is something that we take very seriously at the institute with our students. Our students receive feedback from their peers, 8 peers, every 6 weeks. And then they are able to learn all the constructive feedback that their peers are giving them. They sit down with a coach, a professional coach, and they come up with a plan in order to improve in those soft skills. We see a drastic change, like a dramatic change on the how the students behave themselves in a team setting based on this feedback and how they can implement the suggestions that their peers are giving them. Okay, so here again, be proactive, because I think it's very, very hard to expect people to give us feedback without us asking for that. Okay. And then finally, in this communication and visualization area, the first thing about communications is that we need to know our your audience. Okay, so our students, for example, take a 1-week course in communications training. We stop all the technical programming statistics classes, and they focus in their communications training. I think like the first thing that the communications team tell our students is know your audience. This is something very easy to hear, understand, but it's something really hard to implement. I am going to tell you the story of what happened last year. Last year, for the visualization project that we were doing with them, we partnered with the tennis team here at NC State. The tennis team had a very interesting data set, and they had some questions that they wanted to get answered with a visualization dashboard. Our students worked in teams and presented the results to the coach that was their audience. And we told them, remember to know your audience, remember to who you are presenting. Out of 22 teams, only 5 teams did that. They actually presented to the audience, to the point that we had to sit down with all the students after the presentation and say, hey, most of you failed as a group because you didn't target your presentation to your audience. We gave very, very good grades to the ones that had done that job. And even if their dashboard had been really, really great, if they didn't tailor the presentation to their audience, then that presentation didn't really matter, because that was the tennis coach was not really happy with the outcome. My recommendation here is to practice as well. Very similar to programming. If you don't do it, then it's going to be hard for you to fail and understand what you need to improve. We like our students to experiment this. This was something that they did for a course during the year, and before they presented to their the practicum presentation to the company that they are working with, because it's better that they fail during the course than with the company that they are working or with the employer that they are working with. The most popular tools, I think, for visualization would be Tableau, RShiny, and Dash. Those are 3 very good options that you have to create visualization presentations. And something interesting about Tableau specifically is that you can get certified in Tableau. Here is a recommendation for a course in Udemy that allows you to understand all the knowledge that you need for Tableau. And actually, this course is taught by one of our previous students. It's a very, very good course, has really good ratings. My recommendation with any tool that you can get a certification is to try to get that certification. Tableau has a certification, AWS has a certification, as well as SAS. So what a certification can do for you is that you can put in your resume that you know Tableau, for example. But if you put in your resume that you are certified in Tableau, it's something completely different, because you have studied to do a test, and you have passed the test to prove to the company or to the person that is interviewing you that you have actually gone through the process of really understanding that tool. You are certified in that tool. As a student, if you're a student, you can get 50% even in the prices for these certifications. So I would take advantage while you're studying to take those certifications. Not about AWS. AWS doesn't give you that discount, but SAS and Tableau gives you those discounts. With AWS, that is one of our options that our students can take. They can take up to 4 certifications for free during the program. And it's not something that we enforce, like we don't say that you have to get certified. It's something that the students can choose to take, and most of them will take the 4 certifications. And for AWS, is one of the most popular that they choose to take, is something that the employers like to see. And for example, for this one, for AWS, all the training material is available online for free. Anywhere in the world, you can access this training. And then you can complement that training with some resources that you find on Udemy, for example. There are practice tests that will help you to really review those concepts without any problem. So for example, AWS, you can take it from anywhere in the world where you are right now. The same with Tableau and SAS as well. Okay, so those would be my recommendations. Don't think that because you are maybe in a rural area of the US, you cannot do the same things as the person that is in the east or the west coast of the US. The same thing applies to if you're in Latin America. You can follow all these recommendations, access the same tools that are available here in the US. You can access those as well. I know that, for example, Coursera will give you, if you're in other areas than the US, sometimes they even give you scholarships to take those courses for a reduced fee, taking into consideration that dollars might be a higher currency, okay? So take that into consideration, and you can follow like those recommendations to be more familiar with these areas. So how do we combine all of these areas at the Institute for Advanced Analytics at our master's degree? So I want to mention that the MSA, the Master's in Analytics, is a very intensive program. So as Daisha mentioned, I graduated a long time ago in 2009. And in 2009, the most popular tool, or the only tool that we were learning as programming, was SAS. Since then, we have changed so much in the type of tools that we have seen and that the students need to be familiar with. So that means that we have added content to the curriculum, but we haven't taken much. So it was much easier to be a student in 2008 than to be a student in 2021. Okay, so it's a very intensive program. Any of our students will say the same, but it's a very immersive program because you're actually applying these skills day to day. Like the same thing I talk about the tennis project, you are going to be seeing that with the other courses. We try to make it as real as possible. You are also working with a company that will give you real data under NDA, and you will be solving the questions that they might have. They usually have like 5 questions, 5 objectives. You are working with a team to solve those questions. And they are not easy questions that you will solve in a week. It will take you 8 months to solve those questions. And finally, it's very interactive because we do a lot of work in teams. So the students are receiving that feedback on how they can improve from their peers as well. In the summer, you take like 2 classes. The first one in the foundations of statistics, all the things that I was mentioning, hypothesis testing, ANOVA, simple linear regression, logistic regression, before we go into machine learning. Machine learning is going to be in the fall semester, not in the summer. In the summer, you're only focusing in one programming tool, and then in the fall semester, you are going to be exposed to the other tools, such as Python, R, SQL, Tableau, AWS. You are also taking more advanced courses, and you're preparing yourself to interview in the spring semester. And then finally, in the spring semester, you are interviewing for that job for graduation, and you're wrapping up your practicum. So you are also working in teams to solve that project. Okay, so that's what we do in order for our students to incorporate all of those areas, and that has given us really good results. So as people that we are interested in a career in data science, how can we adapt to continuous learning? Because if you remember this slide is for 2020. these tools are going to change in 5 years. The question is not what will happen if these tools change. The statement is these tools are going to change in 5 to 10 years, and like it's going to be completely different in 10 years, and they are going to change for sure. Okay, so some of the players, they are going to stay. Some of them might not, and new tools are going to come. Okay, so that is something that we know is going to happen. So what we need to say is like the technology is going to change. That is going to be for sure. What we need to do is that we need to remain trainable. We need to show that job that we are applying to, that we are interested in this area, that we are willing to learn the tools that we are missing, that we are willing to do projects with data sets that are available to everyone, and then applying the concepts that we are learning, but in a scenario where we can show, hey, I did this project in order for me to learn these tools that I might not know 100%, but I am doing my best to understand. That will show that job that you are interviewing or the master's degree that you're interviewing, that you are willing and you're passionate about data science, and that you're interested to be in this area that is going to change for sure. Okay, so that would be my recommendation. And with that, I want to thank you for coming to this presentation. I am going to give you my contact information right there in case you have a question that you want to follow up with. And then the website for the program is analytics.ncsu.edu. In case you have any questions about our master's degree, it's a very good master's degree. I have been through that one. I have been through others for me to complete my PhD. It's a completely different type of experience. I think it's more real world oriented. Not a lot of theory, is more on the application. So it's a different type of learning environment. Okay, so I want to thank you for coming, and I am very happy to answer the questions that you might have.
All right, thank you, Dr. Villanes. If you guys would like to join me in a round of applause, you can use the reactions on your Zoom screen. We do have a couple of questions in the chat. Please feel free to add any more. And then once we work through these, we can take any questions you guys would like to share by coming off of mute. So the first question we have, Dr. Villanes, is would you recommend a different approach for preparing for a career in academia versus industry?
So for academia, we need to focus a little bit more on the research side. So I am going to go back to this slide. In this slide of our master's degree, for example, you don't see anything related to research because our program is a professional degree. We don't really prepare you for a PhD. In my case, because I wanted to do a PhD, I had to take a different type of master's degree that would prepare me more for a PhD. So if you're interested in a PhD, in a career in academia, then research should be your focus. Application is good. You are going to make a difference if you know how to apply those tools to the real world, but research should be the main focus. And that is something that if you're enrolling in a PhD, that would be part of your curriculum.
All right, our next question is, what is your opinion on individuals that choose to self-learn on platforms such as DataQuest or DataCamp with an emphasis on doing projects to build one's portfolio?
That is great. So that is something that I think, so if you're using those MOOCs, like for example here, edX, Udemy, Udacity, Coursera, DataCamp, like those platforms are giving you very good knowledge. If you are using data sets to do projects on those, to learn those tools, then you're following a good path in order for you to really become familiar with the challenges and become familiar with the tools that are available in this area. So like that is something that I recommend. I personally know great people, like people that are working in industry right now, that has been their path. Like they use these resources. They knew a little bit about the tools, but they use these resources to really drill into the content. And these tools are available like from anywhere in the world. So my recommendation is that if that is something that you're interested in doing, that's great. If you're more interested in using a master's degree to learn these tools, that is also an option. As I said, like higher education, I am a good believer in higher education. It's just that my recommendation would be to choose a master's degree that is actually reinforcing the 4 areas that you see here.
Awesome. And then since we're on this slide, we have one more question about certifications. Which AWS certifications would you recommend?
So to start with, I would suggest the AWS Cloud Partitioner certification is the kind of like the first level of the certifications. Once you get that Cloud Partitioner certification, that is going to give you a true understanding of everything that is AWS and the cloud platforms in particular, you can then go to a more specialized AWS certification, like such as big data. I haven't taken that one. I am taking that one this year, but I have heard that that one is much more oriented to the few tools that have AWS on big data. So my first recommendation is go more general with the Cloud Partitioner certification that is going to allow you to understand all the different tools, and then you focus on the tools that are of interest to you. In my case, are going to be the ones that are big data oriented.
All right. So those are all of the questions we have in the chat. Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask Dr. Villanes? If so, I invite you to unmute yourself and ask now. So while we wait, as admissions professionals, Val and I often get questions from students who are about to graduate and they're wondering if they should go ahead and try to find a job or if they should jump right into a graduate program. What would be your advice to someone in that situation?
So I was in that situation myself when I finished my undergrad of computer science. I had done an internship related to analytics, to data mining, and I really liked the application of computer science in data mining. So I could have gone to a job in data mining without any problem because I had that internship during undergrad. But I chose to come to a program, to a master's degree, because I knew that they were going to expose me to different things such as time series, logistic regression, linear algebra, text mining, data mining, machine learning. Like I knew that it was going to open my mind in all the knowledge, compared to maybe if you go directly to industry, you are going to go into, I'm going to go to this slide. Maybe you're going to be focused in just one particular vertical, right? So like you might be like in a job that is mostly data, like ETL, data transformation. So you will be very, very good in that area, but you might not know like the details about time series, machine learning, survival analysis. A master's degree should open your eyes to all this knowledge and then let you understand, okay, I am very, very good with the machine learning portion, so I would apply to jobs in that area compared to time series, for example. When I was in the program, one of the courses that I took was text mining. I never imagined myself in that area because there were not many jobs available at that time in 2009 in that area. But we were exposed. We had a professor, he gave us a project. I was very excited to see that. And then I ended up working at Walmart in text mining. And I was able to introduce Walmart to text mining because, as I said, like there were not many companies doing text mining, but companies were interested in implementing text mining. So my role was to implement text mining there. And I ended up presenting to the CEO of the company because I had the knowledge of text mining. If I had gotten directly to a job in industry coming out from undergrad, I would have never had that opportunity because it was not in the skills that I had. But because I had gone through the MSA, then I was able to say, okay, I might not be like a PhD in text mining, but I have enough knowledge that makes me comfortable to play with the data, to learn the skills that I need that in order for me to analyze data using one of these techniques.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Villanes. And earlier you spoke about how when you went through the program, the main emphasis on programming was in SAS, and we get a lot of questions about that. And so Sunny asks, from what I understand and have heard from alumni, the IAA emphasizes the curriculum around SAS. If the industry standard is shifting to Python, how is the IAA adapting to that change?
Yes.
And if you have any examples, can you share?
Yes. So like that was the case in 2008, for example. We only focused on SAS. We were not like really learning Python or we were learning SQL, but not Python or R, for example. Tableau didn't even exist back then. Nowadays, it's different. So you start the summer with instruction completely in SAS. But once you go to the fall semester, you are learning other tools such as Python, R, Tableau, AWS. And then the most important thing that I think like it's all depending on like the student is that the professors, for example, in data mining will tell you, this is your homework. I'm going to give you examples using SAS and R. And then you're able to use any tools, like even Python, that you might not have examples to solve that project, that homework. And then also for your practicum, companies are going to ask you to solve their problem using their preferred tool. And their preferred tool might be something completely different. It might be that your interest or the tool that you came with some knowledge to the program was, for example, R, but they might be asking you to solve that project with Python. So nowadays it's completely different. Like I think like the students will go out to the workforce with SAS and another tool that they use for their practicums and their homeworks as the two main tools that they would know. They know how to do the basics in all of them because they have to do coursework and homeworks tests using the other tools, but I think like two tools would be the result of like the ones that they will feel the most comfortable with.
Okay, so how important is creating a digital presence through LinkedIn or a GitHub profile to become a data scientist? How would you recommend establishing a successful digital presence?
I think it's important. I would say like for these recommendations that I am giving you, like if you are doing a project where you downloaded data from Kaggle and then you are doing a project for that, then put that on GitHub, for example. If you're a student, you will have access to a free account on GitHub where you can post unlimited repositories and then post those, like build your portfolio using GitHub, and then use GitHub if you're like applying for a job and they want you to show them like a code, sample code that you might have done, then you can refer them to your GitHub page. So I would say like GitHub is the most popular tool right now. We encourage our students to use that, not for practicum because that is under NDA, but for any type of homework that they are doing or any type of project that they are doing on their own. GitHub would be the main advice that I would give. And then like sometimes we also see students using LinkedIn in order to like talk about a little bit what they are doing. And then if you're connecting with people that are also in this area, then those people might have questions or suggestions on what you are doing and might give you feedback there. So it's a good way to connect, to build a digital presence online.
Carlos asks, how is deep learning being used in industry? And have you heard about some deep learning projects?
Yes. Okay. So deep learning is a very popular subject right now. We actually have it incorporated in the curriculum under the spring semester in column number 6. So it's a class that we teach at the institute as well. We don't see much applications on deep learning yet. So what we see with Practicum, Practicum is like any company that is doing a project with us. It could be Disney, it could be like the government. We don't see a lot of applications of deep learning yet. And like this might be because of several reasons, like they might be more interested in the model being able to explain like what is happening rather than having like good accuracy, for example. But it's something that we know that like it might be that in 5 years it's completely shifted. Like companies are more interested in deep learning because there had been improvement in how you can explain what is happening. We have it as a course, but we don't see much applications yet. We know that like it's something that might change in the future for sure, and it's good that our students are familiar with this. What I have seen is a little bit more of research happening in the computer science environment. For example, in the group that I was working at for my PhD, we have a student that his thesis was completely on deep learning, trying to actually like explain more what is happening with the algorithm as part of his thesis. So there is a lot of research going on in this area. And like, for example, if you're interested in a specific application of this deep learning, it might be the best choice. But right now for like industry and like the usual day-to-day questions that they might have, it's not, we haven't seen it as applied yet.
Awesome. All right, so we have about 10 minutes left. Do we have any remaining questions before we conclude today's webinar? Well, all right. Well, thank you, Dr. Villanes. If you want to move your slide to the your email address. If anyone has any questions for Dr. Villanes, she invites you to send her an email. If you have any questions about NC State's Master of Science in Analytics program, please visit our website, analytics.ncsu.edu. Val Schwartz and I, as the admissions team, are always happy to answer any questions you have about the program or consult with you about your plans to apply to the program. We will send out the presentation along with the recording for today's presentation to the email you registered with. If you access the webinar without being able to register, please send us an email and we will make sure that we add you to our mailing list. But that is all for today. We thank you all for attending. Let's give Dr. Villanes one more round of applause.
Thank you so much for coming, and I hope to connect with you through email or LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Villanes.
Okay.